All right, come on up.
Thank you very much, Farhan, and good afternoon, everyone. So happy UN Day. Today is the day. I will start with a speech that President Espinosa held this morning in Geneva, where she is in her first official trip. She spoke about investments in a new era of industrializations. She held the speech at the UNCTAD Global Leaders Investment Summit, which is being attended by heads of state and government and thousands of international investors. Ms. Espinosa highlighted the importance of partnering with the private sector and of investing in small and medium-sized businesses, which concentrate up to 70% of employment sources around the world. The PGA stressed that investments are crucial to advance economies, especially in developing countries, and that more efforts need to be made to correct imbalances in gender equality. María Fernanda Espinosa mentioned that, on average, women workers are paid 23% less than their male counterparts, and that amongst the world's 500 largest companies, only 5% of CEOs are women. For the President of the General Assembly, it's possible to correct this point with the help of governments, the private sector, and societies as a whole. In a video message today, Ms. María Fernanda Espinosa is marking UN Day by expressing her deep gratitude to all those who serve the United Nations and its agencies throughout the world. She thanked all UN colleagues for serving the cause of humanity and peace. Ms. Espinosa also remembered the wisdom and foresight of those who laid the foundations for the UN from the ashes of the Second World War. For her, their vision inspired the United Nations Charter with its commitment to uphold human rights and preserve peace and security. She also issued a tweet saying that for 73 years, we the peoples have come together at the General Assembly, the Parliament of Humanity, to defend dignity and human rights. The UN must continue to respond to the world's most pressing challenges and make decisions that truly reflect and represent the need of all citizens. In a few hours, the President will attend a concert in Geneva to celebrate UN Day with staff and guests at the Palais des Nations, and will deliver a speech on the importance of multilateralism. And finally, on her agenda, she had a bilateral meeting with the Ambassador of Ecuador to the UN in Geneva, His Excellency Luis Gallegos. She also spoke to the Director General of the International Labour Organization, Guy Ryder. And as you probably will recall, one of the 7 priorities of her presidency is decent work, and the PGA is planning a joint event for next year with ILO. This is all from me. Do you have any questions? Mr. Abadi, and afterwards I go to you.
Thank you, Monica.
Yes.
Would the President of the General Assembly be in favor of the adoption by the Security Council of a resolution on the protection of journalists?
First of all, the resolution of the Security Council is actually handled by the Security Council. On the theme of the topic of journalists, she said repeatedly that she is in favor of rights of everybody, but of course your question is about journalists, of members of the press being safeguarded and respected. Because without that, people cannot do their work, in this case, journalists, the professions of the media, and also you wouldn't have access to free press, which is fundamental to democracies. Yes, I think I go here, and afterwards I go to, and I will be back to you, Carla. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Monica. Again, question that we are struggling to get real answers. And I would simply put it like this: where does the President of UN General Assembly stand on this investigation on Mr. Khashoggi's death?
Okay. She, and I think, I'm not sure you were here yesterday, but I mentioned that yesterday, that minutes after we received the confirmation of this terrible news on the killing of Mr. Khashoggi, she issued a tweet, and we will actually bring that to you. I mean, it's online, of course, but if you need the whole text, she called for an urgent investigation, a thorough investigation that will hold all people, all involved, that they will be held to account. That's what she said. And we remain by this.
Just to clarify a little bit, does she holds the position that should be international investigation, or rather like it is going now, like I would say lip service from the Saudis who are investigating themselves, actually? So what is her position, to clarify?
First of all, I would leave the characterization for you to make. What she said, and we stand by what she said she stands, I am her spokesperson. She calls for a thorough investigation. She calls into this heinous crime, she said, an urgent investigation that all people who played a role will be held accountable. That's what she says.
International or thorough, that's different.
Yes, she
so
said.
International, thorough, yes, but what about international investigation?
We are talking about an urgent investigation, the PGA, and a thorough investigation. And I don't have anything else for you, at least not as of today. Yes, I go there, and Masoud and then Carla. Sorry. Go ahead, Masoud.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to follow up on Mr. Abadi's question on the protection of the journalists. I just want to know, will the President of the General Assembly support any motion or sort of a resolution being passed by the United Nations General Assembly on the protection, or broad protection of the journalists, which is now being asked for by various international organizations?
Masoud, thank you for this question. You will remember that last year, in November last year, 2017, we had a 30 committee resolution on this called the Safety of Journalists and the Issue of Impunity. Yes? The President if there is any new move towards this issue, it's going to be made by the General Assembly. And every time a decision is made by the General Assembly is made by member states. So I will leave it at this. But I will, of course, refer you to this resolution passed November 2017 that is entitled The Safety of Journalists and the Issue of Impunity. A very important word here, impunity. Carla.
Thank you. I just heard something very shocking from Farhan, that only 11% of the humanitarian aid which is supposed to go to North Korea is in fact funded. And the General Assembly, I think 2 or 3 years ago, referred to, passed a resolution referring the issue of human rights in North Korea to the Security Council, which, frankly, according to a number of members of the Security Council, was an abominable abuse of the Security Council. Now, there seems to be, is there anything the General Assembly can do to prevail upon governments to fulfill their commitments to provide humanitarian aid to a country which they have demonized? In other words, this is sort of Kafkaesque. What can the General Assembly do to rectify the situation if only 11% of humanitarian aid is going to a country which the General Assembly says is a horrible country and is derelict in human rights? I have to disagree because I was in North Korea last year. So the degree of propaganda is staggering. But the bottom line is, if only 11% of humanitarian aid is going to a people that the GA says is in need of human rights, what can the General Assembly do to fulfill the other 89% of humanitarian aid that is supposed to go to North Korea? And I know last week the Times reported that my own country has cut all humanitarian aid to North Korea, which I think is unspeakable. There must be something that can be done. If there's such concern about human rights in North Korea, why not fulfill the complete allotment of humanitarian aid that's supposed to go there?
Well, thank you for your question. Unfortunately, I will have to disappoint you, as I don't have any comments on this. But I would like to use this opportunity to say something that actually I should have said about two days ago. That news that guns and guards are to be removed from the Korean Trust village of Panmunjom is another welcome step forward to securing peace on the Korean peninsula. This is one of the points I should have brought to you, and I didn't. But also, not Carla, sorry, Liza is not here today. On the human rights resolutions that I was asked also last week, we understand that dozens of resolutions are being now handled in the third committee. And that is the answer for the question last week. The deadline for them to be produced is the 21st of November. And that's all from me. Thank you very much, everybody, and have a good afternoon.